Welcome to Resolution, an initiative of Josh McDowell Ministry. Here we equip you to help youth overcome hurts and struggles and start thriving in life with Christ and others. I'm your host, Bennett. Welcome to Season 1. Hey everyone, welcome back again to the Resolution podcast. Bennett here, and today we will be building off of the last two episodes, actually, where we talked about part one of the wholeness apologetic, which is about true wholeness, experiencing the life we are designed to live with God, with self, with others, seeing the fulfillment of our 7 longings and thriving, which primarily comes in healthy relationships with God, with self, with others, with our needs being met. And today we'll be getting into part 2 of the wholeness apologetic model. And this is all about how our 7 longings go unmet. We experience hurt leading to lies. And this sets us up to get stuck in ways of struggling. And we'll dive deeper into that connection in the next episode. Today, I want to explore what happens when we don't experience the life we're created to live in Eden, when our longings go unmet, when we don't experience that life of met longings, of healthy relationships with God, with self, with others, with safety, and with acceptance. What Josh McDowell and I have found after years of working with young people, of research, of meeting with theologians, therapists, and brain scientists is this. Most of young people's struggles, like anxiety, depression, shame, porn, body image issues, procrastination, those issues are often due to hurt and lies from unmet longings. Hurt and lies from unmet longings. It's a way of reacting to it, of seeking the fulfillment of legitimate longings in illegitimate ways, in unhealthy ways. See, their struggles aren't random. So why are today we going to focus on hurt, on unmet longings, on the lies that people experience? Well, just like if we're having physical symptoms in life, we go to a doctor to figure out the underlying cause. So it's true with the struggles in life, the unwanted behaviors, the issues coming up. We have to look deeper below the surface as to what's really going on. And like I said, those issues are so often driven by hurt, by unmet longings in life. It can be so easy to want to avoid the hurt that we've experienced because hurt is hurtful, pain is painful, or we can want to avoid identifying the pain that we have caused other people. At times it can seem like too much, or maybe we'll be afraid of how our identity, our sense of identity and value may be affected if we're honest with the harm that we've caused other people in life. We can be in denial about the things that we have done to others. But to help young people thrive, we've got to help them identify how they need to be healed. Otherwise, they'll live reactively. They'll cope with their pain. They'll continue to believe lies that they've developed through their hurts. And they will struggle to reach their purpose and their potential in life and to live that out. So as we get into this episode today, I want to share an experience I had when I was around the age of 15. It was a Saturday morning. I'd studied hard that whole week, gotten up early, gone to school, and I so anticipated hanging out with my friends. When Saturday morning finally arrived, I texted my close friend Cam, "Want to hang out today?" Cam said something like, "Sure. I'm not sure what I'm doing yet, but I'll let you know." A couple hours passed and I heard nothing more. So I texted Cam again. No reply. Waited 30 minutes longer. Texted him. No reply. An hour later, texted again. Still no response. I was bored. I was growing restless. I don't want all of Saturday to go by without hanging out with my friends. At this point, it was mid-afternoon. So I figured that Cam might be at his house. So I hopped on my skateboard and cruised over there. It was about a mile and a half away. It just took me about 10 minutes to get to his house. And as I approached Cam's house, there I saw Cam with a couple other friends, Taylor and Joe. And they were doing skateboard tricks and laughing and having a good time. And instantly my heart sank. I realized that they were hanging out without me. So I rolled up on my skateboard and remember saying, "Hey guys, I tried texting you and calling you, but you didn't answer." Cam shrugged and said that his phone had been on silent. "For 5 hours?" I thought quietly. Well, you knew that I wanted to hang out. You were hanging out without me. Then Joe spoke up, a look of disgust on his face. "You can't just come over here uninvited." I looked from him to the others, Cam to Joe, and my heart sunk further, realizing that they wanted to hang out, just not with me. They'd been ignoring me, excluding me. I was uninvited. I felt so rejected. And it hurt so badly, and I can still feel a little bit of that hurt to this day. What made the situation worse was it felt like the 1,000th time my friends had made me feel rejected. I felt sad, embarrassed, and unwanted in that moment. And their previous remarks from the past years came up again and again in my mind. "Stop being annoying, Ben. You're weird. You're fat." And so on. And what happened that memorable day was the deepening of a hurt, of an unmet longing, of a wound, an unmet need. I longed for acceptance, especially from those I considered to be my closest friends. But I didn't experience that so often. See, I wanted to be included, loved, accepted, and approved of as I was. I wanted to feel safe. So when I felt that sting of rejection instead, it deeply hurt. It furthered the wounds that I had experienced. Why do I tell you that story? Well, the reality is we live in a fallen world, a broken world, a fractured world in which our God-given longings go unmet. We experience loss, grief, pain, and betrayal. People who are supposed to be there often aren't. Those that are closest to us can often hurt us the most. All of us are imperfect. We end up hurting one another as we interact with imperfect people day in and day out. And these hurts, they can happen in many different ways, but some of the most consistent and significant ways we experience these unmet longings are in relationships. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychotherapy, recognized this reality when he said, "We are threatened with suffering from 3 directions: from our body, which is doomed to decay; from the external world, which may rage against us with overwhelming and merciless force of destruction; and finally, from our relations with other human beings." The last source is perhaps more painful to us than any other. Additionally, Jesus in John 16 said, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." This is a reality of life. It's unavoidable. We all experience letdown, hurt, loss, and pain in life. When it comes to these hurts and how we experience our 7 longings going unmet, there are 2 that Josh McDowell and I have seen people of all walks of life struggle with again and again and again. Those are unmet longings for acceptance and unmet longings for the assurance of safety. So I want to talk about that first one, acceptance. And I want to share about a friend who I'll call Sharon. So Sharon remembers longing for acceptance throughout her childhood, her youth, and in adulthood. She grew up as the middle child in a family of 7. She always felt different from her siblings. Her siblings excelled at school and sports, and she wasn't much of an athlete and just did all right in school. Comments from her family communicated that they didn't really expect a lot of her. And when she got ready to graduate high school, her parents let her know that she didn't have to enter college, but that she might be more happy just trying to find someone to marry and settling down and becoming a housewife. Today, though Sharon went on to earn graduate degrees in a challenging field, went on to have a successful marriage, a successful career, she still struggles with the longing for acceptance. She continues to feel inadequate and wonders if she is valued for who she is. This longing for acceptance can go unmet in so many different ways. So I want to share some examples of how I've seen young people and leaders and parents, just people in many different walks of life, struggling with the longing for acceptance and what has really led to that in their life. With parents, I've witnessed some people sharing that their dad never said, "I love you." Their mom regularly treated them as weird or different or didn't approve of their thoughts or opinions. With siblings, with relatives, I've seen people struggle so much for acceptance because growing up, they were bullied by their brothers or teased by their brothers. Another example, maybe it was a grandparent who never seemed to want to spend much time with you. With friends, we can experience our friends not being there for us when we need them the most. Or maybe like one individual shared that their best friend often said that they were weird. With authority figures, this can show up again and again outside of our relationship with our parents. With teachers who are angry or irritable or criticize us, or who value us based on our grades alone. They seem to be happy with us when we perform well and displeased when we don't do well in their class. And with others, could be people making comments about the way we look or our weight, being compared to others, experiencing criticism, shaming comments, anger or frustration from others. Growing up in a society where we look at ads or even on social media where we start to compare ourselves to other people's success, or we buy into the lies of ads that say that we're not good enough and unless we have X amount of dollars or that kind of lifestyle or hang out with those types of people. This unmet longing for acceptance can happen in so many different ways. So many experiences, circumstances will cause us to feel rejected, like we're not good enough, like there's something wrong with who we are. And so often this happens as kids growing up, trying to make sense of the world around us, trying to figure out who we are and our value. We can interpret messages from other people, intentional or not, that can cause this deep unmet longing for acceptance in our life. The second longing that is very frequent in people's lives is the longing for the assurance of safety. This so often goes unmet in our world. So let me share about a friend of mine who I'll call Ivan. So Ivan was adopted from Asia around the age of 2 by a Caucasian family in a rural part of the US. And he grew up in this area and was one of the few Asian kids around. In elementary school, he began being mocked, teased, pushed around for looking different, for being Asian. Most days he feared for his safety. He desperately wanted someone to intervene and to protect him. He longed to be protected and provided for, physically and emotionally. He only wanted to be loved and accepted for who he was and how he looked. He wanted to know that he could walk around at school, in his neighborhood, not worrying about his safety, to live without fear. But no one protected him. No one seemed to stand up for him or intervene. No one prevented him from being pushed around and bullied as a kid. So as a result of that, he carried this insecurity and this longing for safety all the way up into adulthood. That unmet longing for assurance of safety can happen to all of us in various experiences. So I'll just share some experiences that I've heard and some examples throughout the years of working with many different people. With parents, my parents lived paycheck to paycheck, so I grew up worrying about money and my basic needs. With siblings or relatives, I was picked on and beat up as a kid, and my brother never stood up for me. With friends, my best friends teased me quite a bit. They picked on me or they roughhoused with me, but not really with other people. With other authority figures besides parents, I was sexually abused by a family friend, one individual shared with me. With others, in this day and age with the school or public shootings going on, with people being targeted for their ethnicity, for their religious beliefs, experiencing illness or medical issues, injuries or motor vehicle accidents, all of these things can lead to these unmet longings for the assurance of safety. And our unmet longings can come in two categories: attacks and absences. Attacks and absences. Some unmet longings come from attacks. These are aggressive actions done to us. Aggressive actions done to us. It could be name-calling and other insults, manipulation, teasing, sexual or physical abuse, and more. Other hurts we feel come from absences. This is a loss or an unfulfilled need. A loss or an unfulfilled need. It could be a parent who leaves or one who is distant emotionally or physically, as well as from a lack of affirming or loving words, being ignored by family, by friends, being dismissed as unimportant. And here's the thing, both the attacks and the absences that we experience can hurt us deeply. They always leave us with unmet longings, whether temporary or long-lasting. And this single attack of high intensity, such as being sexually or physically abused, mocked, hurt deeply by someone, this can leave a lifetime of pain behind. However, so can these attacks that are not as intense in the moment, but that are recurring and frequent in our life, such as being ridiculed, called names, bullied on the playground as a kid, being singled out or ostracized because of our gender or because of our ethnicity. These can also leave a lifetime of hurt and of pain in our souls. Similarly, the pain of unmet longings may follow after an absence of high intensity, something that happens once or infrequently. Maybe it's a parent who missed the biggest football game of our year, being stood up by a date, a parent deserting the family, or the death of a loved one. But recurring absences of lower intensity, such as a parent being emotionally disengaged, friends are hanging out without you, hardly feeling affirmed or validated by someone who needed to do that, by a significant figure in your life. All those things can leave this deep and lasting wound. And as people that are created uniquely, made in God's image, none of us are the same. So we can't compare our hurt from our unmet longings. Something that deeply devastates one person may not impact someone else much at all. I've heard so many people share that they've had a relatively easy life compared to so-and-so, as they would say. But doing that is diminishing and downplaying their experience. We can't compare our unmet longings. Everything impacts all of us uniquely. We have to look at our own life. We have to look at the unmet longings we've experienced and be honest with how they have impacted us and affected us. And only when we do that can we begin to find healing, understanding, and freedom and move towards a better future of wholeness. We all experience attacks and absences throughout our lives. And what I love about the Bible is that it's honest. It's full of this reality, examples of attacks and absences for both the Christian and the non-Christian. See, being a Christian doesn't mean that we'll escape attacks, absences, hurt, and unmet longings. I mean, Joseph in Genesis 37 was betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery. Potiphar was lied to by his wife, and Joseph was lied about in Genesis 39. Noah and his family faced the flood and the uprooting of their lives in Genesis 7. Moses was abandoned by his parents as an infant. That's Exodus 2. Tamar was raped by her brother in 2 Samuel 13. The woman at the well in John 4 was so used to being treated as less than because of her behavior and because of her ethnicity that she was riddled with so much shame. Jesus himself was publicly mocked, tortured, stripped naked, and killed unjustly for crimes he did not commit. Attacks and absences happen to all of us in life. And these attacks and absences can leave deep caverns of unmet longings in our soul. And we can start to believe lies. I'm not good enough. Something is wrong with me. I'm inadequate. Or God can't be good. He wouldn't have let that happen to me. Or if God is real or all loving, how could so much evil and suffering and pain happen? Or people aren't safe. They're just going to condemn me or reject me. Our unmet longings so often will lead to lies about God, about ourselves, and about others. And this has been the enemy's tactic since day one in the Garden of Eden, to twist the truth, to deceive, to get us to believe lies about God, ourselves, and others. See, in the garden, in Genesis 3, Adam and Eve fell for a lie from the enemy, and they disobeyed God's command to not eat of the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Adam and Eve ate the fruit and immediately were filled with shame, believing not just that they had done wrong, but that they themselves were wrong. That lie that started about God ended in a lie they believed about themselves as well. They were cut off spiritually from God, and the separation from God spread to all mankind. They needed forgiveness and a restored relationship with God. But much more brokenness entered our world after the fall of mankind. People would go on to hurt one another, furthering the lies, the shame, and the unmet longings they experienced. And the enemy wants to use whatever he can to get us to believe lies, often using our unmet longings. A few years ago, I had a friend who I'll call Bill, and he was in a healing support group that I was leading. We'd meet up weekly and talk about our lives, and you could see the shame in his demeanor. Hunched over, kind of looked down a lot, slouched, soft-spoken. And he shared once in our group that he often felt like a burden. He felt like he just got in people's way. And we were so confused by this because Bill was awesome. We loved him. He was funny. He served in a campus ministry that he was part of. He really loved people well. So we were baffled by him sharing this. But we started to ask Bill, when did that begin in your life? And over the weeks, he started to think back about his earliest memories of feeling weird or getting in people's way. And he shared with us that he remembered being around the age of 4, being so excited to get up in the morning and to go and to visit with his dad, but his dad often didn't have time for him. He often said things like, "Go away, Bill, you're annoying." So what did that do to Bill at an early age? It crushed his soul. It caused this deep cavern, this deep unmet longing in his life, this desire to be accepted for who he was. But he didn't experience that often in a relationship with his dad. He struggled to see the truth. These unmet longings that led to lies were so deeply rooted. And just like Bill, that can happen to all of us. These unmet longings can actually result in these default ways of thinking, of these negative core beliefs or these wrong beliefs about ourselves, God, and the world around us. This is especially true if this happens again and again as kids growing up in this world, as we start to believe the same negative thoughts or agree with the lies or the messages that we receive from our unmet longings, like that we're inadequate or not good enough. We actually develop default ways of thinking and of believing. And over time, in our brain, what happens is our neurons, our nerve cells are firing as we're making decisions. And over time, the neurons that keep firing together, transmitting the chemical signals, actually end up fusing together and wiring together. It's basically what we call muscle memory. Just like as a kid, when you're learning how to walk, and then over time, you kind of stop thinking about walking and you can just do it while you're focusing on something else, and that's operating in the background. The same thing happens with the lies and the negative core beliefs we start to believe as a result of our unmet longings, to the point where it's almost like we have these lenses on that aren't correct of how we're seeing ourselves and the world around us. So our view of ourselves, God, and others can't help but be informed by the unmet longings and the attacks and absences that we experience. For example, maybe you had negative experiences with a father, with a mother, with other authority figures, criticism. Maybe they left. Maybe they were emotionally distant or didn't take interest in your world. That might have impacted your view of God. Maybe that's why you believe that he's distant, that he's not interested in your life, that he's upset with you whenever you do something wrong. Maybe you believe that he's not trustworthy. And maybe your parents were great or are great in so many different ways, but we have to be honest that those negative experiences, those unmet longings, can deeply hurt us. They will take a toll in our lives. Maybe you've experienced rejection, bullying, being uninvited by siblings or friends, and now you struggle to trust people. You think that they're going to reject you, that they won't follow through, that they'll hurt you, that they won't accept all of you, so you desire to hide parts of your life. Maybe it's like my life, where my friends bullied me and teased me and hung out without me or said things like, "You're weird, you're annoying." And the hurt that caused, and how I learned that people aren't safe. And over the years, I started to isolate and hide and struggled to trust and open up about what was really going on inside me. Maybe it's the way you view yourself. For those that have ever struggled with thoughts like, "I'm not good enough, I'm going to fail, do I have what it takes?" They likely have experienced significant unmet longings for acceptance as a result of attacks and absences. Maybe you struggle with acceptance because of the way you look, what somebody has said about that, your image, your abilities. Are you stylish enough? Are you good looking enough? Do you have what it takes? All of those things can be developed as a result of these unmet longings for acceptance. For those prone to worry, to wrestle with fear or anxiety, or who are often alert for danger, whether physically, emotionally, or relationally, they're likely to have had significant unmet longings for acceptance or safety as a result of attacks and absences in life. The effects of our unmet needs, the results of attacks, of absences in our life, can feel unbearable at times. They can be ruthless and hurt us deeply. But we've got to remember, our stories aren't over. God mourns with us. He cries with us. He cares about us. He never wastes our pain and our suffering if we allow him to use it. He promises to bring resolution to our stories and to work all things together for our good, to make us more and more like the original person he created us to be. In addition to that, he desires to set us free from the effects of these attacks and absences and to fulfill our unmet longings. He desires to bring healing and freedom. And we can rest assured that Jesus cares because he says he came for the sick, not the healthy. That's Mark 2:7. He came to heal the brokenhearted and bind up their wounds. That's Psalm 147:3. He came to set the captive free. That's Luke 4:18. He came so that we may have life and life to the full here and now. That's John 10:10. He will one day make all things new and wipe away every tear from our eyes. Revelation 2:14. As we enjoy intimate relationships, close relationships with him and others in a place even greater than Eden, a place where there will be no more hurt, no more pain, no more suffering, and all of our longings will go perfectly met as we do life forever with God and his people. But whatever pain, hurts, or unmet longings we experience, we can take heart because Jesus has overcome the world. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to him, as Matthew 28 says. Our battles are temporary, and one day we will see Jesus face to face, and it will outweigh every unmet longing, every experience of pain and of hurt that we have been through. If you remember my friend Ivan that I shared about earlier, who was beat up, bullied, pushed around for his ethnicity, and he struggled with acceptance, with this desire for the assurance of safety, I got to see his life radically change firsthand. A few years ago, when I first met him, he hesitated to open up and to trust me. He wondered if I was safe. Would I too bully him, make fun of him for being Asian? Would I confirm what he believed to be true? People aren't safe. You can't trust them. They'll harm you physically and emotionally. Over time, Ivan began to experience that I was a safe person, that I wasn't going to condemn him or reject him, but was going to sit with him, listen to him, and ask him about his life. As we became closer, Ivan's longing for assurance of safety began to be met. He began to change right in front of my eyes, relaxing, opening up to other people. He began to be less anxious and angry. He started to see Jesus meet the unmet longings of his heart and grow him through relationships with other safe people. And although healing can take time, it can take months or years, it was amazing that just within a few weeks, Ivan began to change radically, and he shared with me that I was the second man that he had ever trusted. As the weeks went by, the lies he believed began to be replaced with truth as he experienced it relationally with God, with other people, as over and over again, he had these new healing experiences that confirmed what truth actually was, that he was safe, he was loved, he was accepted for who he is. Just as his unmet longing had led to hurt and struggles, met longings led to healing and thriving in his life. See, experiencing the fulfillment of our 7 longings by God and others is one of the key ways we begin to heal. So if you haven't, I want to encourage you to listen to the past 2 episodes about our 7 longings and what it looks like to actually thrive, as that's how much of healing is experienced. But today, I want to ask, where have you experienced unmet longings in your life? What attacks, what absences have you faced? And what lies about God, yourself, and other people have been developed? And think about the young people in your life and help them take these 3 steps. 1, identify the hurts and unmet longings they've experienced. Identify the hurt and unmet longings they've experienced. 2, help them identify the lies about God, self, and others that have been developed. Think back on this episode and the examples shared about the lies and struggles that can happen as a result of unmet longings, of hurt, of attacks, and absences, and help them begin to identify those things. 3, encourage them to challenge those lies with truth, to remember who Jesus says they are. 1 John 3:1, that they are loved children of God, that they matter, that they have worth, that God cares for them. Matthew 6, that if he provides for the lilies of the field and the birds of the air, how much more will he provide for them as his sons, as his daughters? And encourage them to experience met longings, to move towards other safe people, to move towards you when they're feeling an unmet longing, a desire for acceptance or safety, and help them experience new experiences that back up what is true about them. Over and over again, as this happens, they will start to believe truth and to live from this place of deep down, these core beliefs of knowing what is true about their value and who God is and their need for other people. Maybe as a parent or a youth leader, you've realized how you've hurt young people in your life. Maybe your kids or the young people in your organization or church. And maybe how you've contributed to their unmet longings. It's never too late to seek reconciliation, to move towards them. There's grace for you. Be honest with those ways that you might have hurt them and the mistakes you might have met, and ask for their forgiveness and talk about what you want to change and do differently in the future. Maybe as a youth leader, you're thinking about how you can help fulfill some of the 7 longings in the lives of students who have challenging relationships with their parents or a sibling. Maybe you're thinking about the ways that you can help them live out and experience the fulfillment of their longings. Again, check out the last couple episodes if you missed those on how to do that. But wherever you're at, I want to encourage you and remind you that Jesus is not ashamed of your brokenness. He enters into it. God's not obsessed with your sin. He already dealt with it on the cross. He often does his greatest work through our brokenness when we realize how much we need him and other people. So let's see the unmet longings and hurt that young people are facing as an opportunity to enter in, to share about Jesus, who wants to heal and save and forgive them, who wants to restore them and to help them live into the purpose and potential that God has for their lives, to live into the person he created them to be, to thrive, to experience satisfaction, and to make an impact in this world. Thanks for listening to the Resolution Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much to us if you rate it, share it, and subscribe. To be part of the global resolution movement, connect with us on social media and YouTube @Resolution Movement. That's @Resolution Movement. And check out resolutionmovement.org for more information and resources. See you soon.